Yeah, shoot. As always, welcome. Thanks everybody for coming. Uh, it's an exciting time of the year, so looking forward to kicking off the year and getting ready to play another opponent. And obviously, the schedule opens up with a challenging tournament down in Florida. Um, but as I've said to our coaches and said to our players, we're not going to win the national championship opening weekend. So let's let's stick to the process and let's see what we got. You always feel like you got a good idea as to what you have, but there's always guys that step up when the lights are on, and then there's some guys that struggle when the lights are on. So you take that first month of the season to let it play out um, and take it from there.
Dan, how hard was the off season on you? Isaac mentioned he thought it was very difficult, and what adjustments did you wind up making
Um,
off season?
how hard was it?
How difficult was it for you, and what adjustments did you make along the way?
Yeah, I mean we take great pride. I think I said it maybe a couple weeks ago before the first team practice. Whether we win the national championship or struggle and don't finish well, I don't know if it really changes from our standpoint. We want to win the summer. We meet in this room. We have a message before they go off in the summer. We encourage them, we challenge them, we push them, we travel, we visit our guys in our summer leagues and guys that are trying out for USA Baseball or playing in the Cape or the Northwoods or the New England League. Um, and so I thought we did a good job this summer. Then they come back in the fall, and we have a huge fall segment. And I think this fall was centered around a baseball / mission trip to the Dominican Republic that we're able to do every 4 years. And I see so many benefits from that. And we had a good fall, and then here we are in phase 3, if you call it that, as we get ready for the season. So I mean, for me, I thought we won a lot of days, won a lot of opportunities, and made progress in areas that we felt like we need to make progress in, if we're being specific, like on facilities and maybe stuff like that.
Dan, you talk about winning days. The first 3 days, obviously, this weekend, it isn't. You're going to get some good weather, it looks like, and it's really good competition. I know you love this first weekend to be down there and to get 3 good games in.
I love, not every year, but probably of the, I don't know, 17 or 18 seasons, probably 14 or 15 of those we opened up in some type of tournament format. I love it. It's, to me, kind of like a regional atmosphere. There's fans from all 4 teams, or you're waiting in the stands to play your game, or your game's going on and 2 teams are waiting to play after you. It has a regional feel to it, especially with the 4 teams having all been in a super regional the past 3 seasons. It's good competition, and so it's an opportunity to see where you stack up against some of the better teams in college baseball. And you just gotta learn and grow. I mean, that's what, whether you win all 3 or you don't play well, I mean, it's just the coach sayings, it's just one game at a time, and let's see where we're at. Don't get too high and don't get too low, because it doesn't really have a bearing as to what the season's going to look like, as we've learned over the years.
Dan, just a couple days away from the start of the season, have you and Roger been able to sit down and say, okay, these are going to be our 3 starters here?
We talk often. We feel really good about our options. And I think early on you have to be, a realist as to how many pitches and innings can guys go. So it's more like, who can get us out of the gate, who can get us through the lineup one time. If you can get us 2 times, great. But we're not typically getting a 7-inning, 8-inning performance. Man, we're just trying to get out of the gate. And so, yes, there's guys like Sebastian Gongora, will get a start this weekend. Evan Webster's probably, it's amazing the value he brings to our pitching staff because we feel like we could throw him in any role. Carson Liggett, had a really good spring last year, and but he missed the summer and he missed the fall. But I mean, he's a candidate to run out there and start this weekend. Patrick Forbes did a lot, this summer and fall for us, but don't think he'll pitch this weekend necessarily. We're just fighting a little lat strain and pull, and so that's why, like I said, I keep telling our coaches, like, man, let's just be smart. Let's make good decisions. Let's try to get those guys that need to get a little healthier. Let's get them healthy, and let's run out there and compete with the talented group that we have.
Dan, each year you kind of have a unique theme for every group. What is it for this season?
Yeah, as I mentioned, I think with the first question, we met in this room frustrated, disappointed, ready to send these guys off to win the summer. And fortunately, I had a great message from Dr. Elko and just talked about the difference between being a lion or a greyhound. I won't get too deep into it, but it was clear, to be successful, man, you want to be a lion. Don't have your hand out. Don't expect others to do it for you, man. You gotta do it every day. So, if you see this picture around the facility in a lot of areas, it's on a few of my clipboards. It's in the dugout. It's in the hack shack. So it just, the message is kind of be a lion, and with a simple, hey, every morning the lion wakes up and the lion's got to survive, and is not expecting anybody else to do it for him. So just a simple message, and have that focus and desire and hunger, and hopefully it's put us in a good spot.
As you look to improve upon last year, the focus on being mentally tougher, improving fundamentals, improving the talent level, what are the areas that you've worked on the most?
Well, I love the word you used, mentally tougher. Last year toughness was our theme, and so as we've learned, it's a muscle, and so I just like to think the longer you're in this program, the tougher you're going to get. We're always trying to improve with depth, with the fundamental side, with the philosophy, and I think a lot of it comes to what talent do you have, right? Evaluate your talent, and then let's try to help these guys be their best. The success of this program has been getting players to be their best, getting players to put up that All-American type year. That's why those All-Americans are on the wall out there, to honor them. But that's also to honor the coaches and the program and the helping these guys be their best. So as you break down each player, you look at all the players that are returning first, saying, okay, another year in the program, third year in the program, fourth year in the program. Like, Coach Snyder and Coach Rabel, we've got to get our hitters to be their best as well as they've ever performed in this program, those returning. And it's the same with Coach Williams and the pitching staff, that if we can get Webster and Liggett and Phillips and Corbett and all those older pitchers to be their best, as well as some of the younger guys and the new guys, then you have a chance. I think that then you clearly have a chance to do something special. You got to stay healthy, as we learned that last year. And I always feel accountable. I don't like to just say bad fortune. We always have to feel accountable, for everything that happens in our program. Maybe that's just being stubborn or hard-headed, but that's the mindset I like to have. And, so the hope is this spring we're a healthier program. Unfortunately, we're not 100% healthy today, but you know what? Maybe that's a blessing. Maybe that's forced us to tweak some things. Maybe that's forced us to address some areas and do our best to help these guys, stay healthy, strong, and as we said, to be their best.
What specifically does Sebastian add to the team?
It's an older pitcher, experience. It's a guy that started off weekends and pitched in conference tournaments and pitched in the regional, and even though he came in here with some I guess fanfare, he earned it. I mean, he earned the respect of the players. Physically, it's a big, talented, strong left-handed pitcher. He really took to the system. He took to the growth mindset. You could tell, man, he just wanted to get better, and he just wanted to be coached and pushed and challenged. And you hope the combination of him being around the coaches, him being around the program, him being around the other pitchers. I think when you're walking next to the Liggetts and the Phillips and the Websters, and these guys been through it, man. These guys have pitched in regionals and super regionals and the ACC. And so I think him day in and day out being around that pitching staff has probably helped him. But, he's been really good to this point. We're looking forward to, him running out there with our uniform on and pitching against other teams this spring.
I think Wake's pretty much of a consensus number one in the polls. There's 5 other ACC teams ranked by most people. Is the league as tough as it's ever been?
It looks like it on paper, which is exciting. If we've had a lot of success in this league, and that's shown that gives you a chance to have a lot of success when you get in the postseason. That's one of the benefits of being in the ACC is, you could run across an ACC team maybe in a super regional or obviously in Omaha, but you're not going to that first weekend. Not that you're not going to face good opponents, but I think our league is obviously from a star power, from certain programs that are locked in right now with depth and momentum and success. I think it's great. I think it's something that, I'm always pulling for our league out of the gate. I think our league has learned you gotta root for each other, man. You really need to win at a conference, because once conference play starts, the league's going 500. So in the world of RPI, it's what you do in the 26 non-conference games.
As far as last year, the catching position was maybe the craziest you've said that you've ever had to deal with all the injuries. Kind of bring us up to date on those young guys that were injured, and how's that competition behind the plate been?
Yeah, Klein and Vierling, were the 2 freshman catchers that got hurt. Didn't participate this fall, and I thought we did a really good job rehabbing, getting them back. I thought those 2 worked really hard. As I kept telling, our support staff and our coaches, and we don't, as much as I'd love for them to play in the fall, it's just not the best thing when you look at the numbers, and the longer we gave them time off, the better their chances of staying healthy and strong for as long as they can play this game. So I feel good, when you have 2, even though they're only sophomores, man, they were in the fire as freshmen. They did a nice job. But because of, the 2 with the knee injuries, we had to go out and get Luke Napleton. That was, fortunate to get a senior, an older guy, just to add depth and make sure we were in a good position from the catching side. And then, of course, you always have signees, right? So we had some high school guys come in, and Zion Rose and George Baker and Taggart Tyson. So, we've got depth there, and so now we just gotta use that depth to our strength. I've always caught multiple guys, 2 to 3 catchers, just to keep them healthy, keep them strong, keep them fresh, So, hopefully that's an advantage for our team this year. And we've got a great tradition, right, a great history of catching success. And I think part of it is Coach Snyder and those catchers in the room, man. That's like our quarterback room. There's a lot of camaraderie in there. There's a lot of accountability in there. And like we talked about with Sebastian, or, we call him Seabass, that him being around all those talented pitchers should help him. And the catchers, them pushing each other and day to day, and that competition should help our catching core as a group.
Dan, what have you seen out of the older guys who have been here for a while in terms of their leadership and trying to help this program bounce back from missing the postseason last season? Isaac mentioned that he kind of drew on lessons from that 2022 squad and some of the leaders on that team, and is applying that to this team.
You have to, as older players, right? And that could be the blessing of this program right now. Believe me, I would like it to be like Colin Lyman, Logan Taylor, Jake Sparger, Ryan Summers. I would love for kids to walk in this program as freshmen and have 4 years of hosting regionals, 4 years of super regionals, 2 trips to the College World Series. Like I love when Colin Lyman comes to do chapel, because when I introduce him, as the players know, I brag about the alumni and I give them a lot of love. Well, when you read his resume, it's like, holy cow. And it's unfortunate that, kids in this room, at least the returners, they're not going to have that resume that Colin Lyman has. But there are a lot of kids in this room that did win an ACC championship. There's a lot of kids in this room that did play in a super regional. I guess Evan Webster went to Omaha. He's a young guy. He missed it. So, so that there's enough that the Isaac Humphreys and the Beards and the Bensons and the Websters and all those guys can take from the good times. But you know what? They've had to go through some bad times. So use that as a blessing to know the do's and the don'ts. As I've told new kids that walk into this program, man, sometimes it's a blessing when you walk into a program when they're coming off a tough year, because nobody feels comfortable and nobody's sticking their chest out. Nobody's entitled, right? If we talk about the Greyhound, sometimes you walk into a program that just won the national championship, or they just finished in the top 5 or 10 and they just won a conference championship, and you're kind of, by association, you feel like you won that. And sometimes that's not the healthiest for young athletes, as I like to call them, amateurs. So I see where this program is at as such a blessing and an opportunity, because at the end of the day, if this group wins a national championship, they would have done something that no other group has ever done here. So they'll probably say, hey, Coach, take that, all right? Take that for all the alumni that you throw in our face all the time. And I'd be glad for them to say that to me. Like, really, that's why many of them are here. Is to get this program back to Omaha. But I know every recruit and every kid that comes here, they want to be the first. Like, they want to be the first team to win a national championship here. So I love the position we're in and the opportunity we have. Now, with that being said, it's scary because the goal of this program, and we let the kids vote, and we want to hear from them. What do they want? They want to win a national championship. Well, my job is to get us to play good baseball opening weekend, get us to throw strikes and make a routine play. And how about we get a bunt down? How about we get a guy in from third? And how about we play the game the right way? And then win or lose, we learn and grow, and then we come back the next day. And so that's what makes coaching so much fun is that journey and that process to get to where we ultimately want to be.
I think you have 4 guys from the transfer portal that they're all moving up to ACC level competition. What did you see in them that convinced you that they're the right guys?
I love just the blue collar mentality. You get a couple Division II guys, and then you get a couple Division I guys that, not silver spoon kids, not Greyhounds by any means. I just felt like those 4 kids were lions, and they wanted to come here after what this program just endured with no fear. Like, man, I could be a part of the rebuild. I could be a part of getting that group back to Omaha. I could be a part of something special. So, and you kind of always love that about like maybe junior college kids. I've always loved a couple junior college kids because they're so grounded. And they're humble, and they're so appreciative of everything. And that was one of our themes this year as we talked about Be a Lion. I'd like to think from the fall through the leadoff banquet, attitude of gratitude has been a phrase in our program, and we did an exercise. Like, I still want them to realize how blessed they are and how fortunate they are, and I see the benefits of that in all areas of your life when you're appreciative of what you have and the blessings you have. So, I like what those four brought to the table. And they blended in because we had a great, mature, older group. It wasn't necessarily guys threatened. It was more about competition, good, healthy competition that the two pitchers and the two position players brought.
Can you talk a little bit about, kind of the freshman class that you've brought in? You got some heralded kids, whether it be a Rose or a Detmers, but also maybe even some not quite, a little more off the radar kid like a Lucas Moore who's just hit all fall and all spring, and what those kids could bring to the lineup even right away out of the gate this weekend.
Yeah, I've said this, and I've had meetings with the older players, and we'll have kind of our one big powwow meeting before we head down to Florida. You need everybody. We don't have a minor league system. We can't make trades at the deadline. Like, this is who we have, and I find it hard to really do something special without freshmen being in the mix. And when you look at our years, we've been to Omaha, and I'll share this story. I had the 11 seniors over my house, and I sat down with them at the end of the night, and I told them the story about in 07, how we took all 9 seniors at the regionals, and we took them on stage when we won the regional. And we were on the road. We were the visiting team, so we didn't make a lot of friends that weekend. And I don't think they were too pleased with us taking over the stage. But I sat down, and 9 seniors walked up on that stage. And I think this group can be like the 07 group. But the 07 group, they'd be foolish to not see the value of, what Chris Dominguez did on that 07 team. My gosh, he got hot in the postseason. It was like we jumped on his back. Justin Marks was like a machine. It was like he was Brendan McKay before Brendan McKay. I just don't remember a freshman being that consistent, that good, and we flipped the ball to a true freshman every Saturday, every game too. And he got the program's first win in the College World Series, a true freshman. So I look at this freshman group, we're going to need help from them. And there's candidates you mentioned in position players, in Zion Rose and Lucas Moore and Alex Alicea, in pitchers, Stark, Detmers, Hartman, Dean. I know I'm going to leave some guys out in these type of settings, but it's like they just gotta they've got to be mature. They've got to understand the process of college baseball, and Brendan McKay wasn't Brendan McKay opening weekend. In 14, when we made it to Omaha, and it was amazing, our lineup, I think Solak was hitting third, and Corey Ray might have been hitting fifth as true freshmen. They weren't hitting third and fifth probably the first half of the season, So that's our job as coaches, and we'll have a whole emphasis on being selfless, and hopefully the older players will help the younger players. But I am excited about the younger group, and they will have to help us. But they just got to know it, it takes a little bit of time, before they – if there's some superstars in the group, I'd be glad to have I've had the National Freshman of the Year, I think, twice, and I'd love to have another National Freshman of the Year. But it's just let's see how well they come along, and let's see how they help this team.
Back to the portal guys for a minute. You had talked about wanting to be that team that won a title without anybody from the portal, but the landscape has changed so much. Kind of when in your mind did you kind of say, okay, we kind of have to jump in and do this, and B, you have to get lucky, don't you, with the guys that you bring in?
Yeah, I don't want to say the only reason I wanted to win without because I thought we had a team that could compete for a national championship last year, and we didn't have a portal guy on the roster. And part of that was we had a lot of talent in the program. We just felt like, but the combination of the injuries and then the transfer portal really makes it like that. So for us, it was we had the injuries at the catching spot, and we had a middle infielder transfer out. So it was like, okay, we need a catcher, we need a middle infielder. So it just worked out. Like we had to fill those holes, pitching, right? You never have enough pitching. And so just looking at our pitching staff, and you're leading into the draft, and you don't know if Webster's signing, if Corbett's signing, if Phillips is signing. Like it's really stressful as a coach. Like, oh my gosh, so we better get a couple pitchers in the portal. So I think it's just each program is different, and you got to find the right balance for you. I think we're well aware, right? The NIL seems to play a big part in the portal. So, I'm appreciative of the 502 circle, and I'm not going to say we're where we want to be at, but we're moving in the right direction. So for me, it's you're either getting 1% better or 1% worse. I mean, we're moving in the right direction, but fans have over the last, I say 6 months, but man, I've asked for help. I've asked for support. I've asked, we're in a dugout club shirt, like, this, I mean, I probably should have wore a 502 circle hat, right? And I think it's a great, as we talked about opportunity, it's a great opportunity for our fans to step up. What do you believe in? Who do you want to be associated with? We all put our money and efforts towards something. So whatever that is, I'd love for Louisville baseball to be one of those areas. So as we make improvements and continue to get support in those areas, I think the sky's the limit. I think with the success of these 4 guys this year, I'd like to think we could go into the portal this summer and compete for some of the best players in the country. But I also feel like I don't have to live and die off of that. I mean, I feel really good. I could, as we talked about those freshmen and kind of that sophomore class gets skipped over a little bit. But the sophomore class, the Forbes, the Biven, the Keelan, the Lippy, the Klein, the Vierling, like I love that sophomore class. So I feel good about all the talent coming back. And so it'll definitely be a balance of both recruiting and then I think you got to be active in the portal.
Who do you see stepping up with Jack and Christian gone as hitters? Stepping up as hitters with Jack and Christian gone.
Well, I will say this, and I've said this a couple of times, and some of the freshmen are obviously going to help us, but I've said Gavin Keelan, I could make a lineup where Gavin, who played an awful lot as a freshman and was a Cape Cod All-Star and has projections already out for the draft next year, but just being with him every day and knowing how professional he is, how hard he works, like I can make a lineup with him being the youngest guy in the lineup. That's a comfortable feeling as a coach, So, if Luke Napleton catches, that's a senior. If Ryan McCoy is at first, that's a senior. Now, that's McCoy's second year in our program. I think our strength has been on, if the longer you're in this program, the tougher you get, the better you get. So Dylan Hoy at second, that's a senior. Beard at third, or Anderson, that's a junior and a senior. Benson in left, that's a senior. Eddie King in center, that's a junior. And really it's Eddie's second year because he got hurt his freshman year. So last year was his first year. Isaac Humphrey in right, that's a senior. Like, that's a comfortable feeling, especially as we see in college athletics, right? The value of these old quarterbacks and these athletes playing. Now there's a balance there, right? Because you lose a lot of your stars their junior year. But, hey, in 2007, man, I had some star seniors. I mean, Boomer Whiting was an All-American as a fifth-year senior, right? Logan Johnson was an All-American as a senior. Tristan Magnuson was a supplemental first-round draft pick as a fifth-year senior. Like, so that's what excites me as being older and thinking all those hitters that are returning can make huge jumps and just be more consistent, more productive, and allow us to be more balanced. So when a Zion Rose is in the lineup or Lucas Moore, there's not as much pressure on them, man. Just fit in the lineup and let these older players do what they're supposed to do and let these young guys just play.
Dan, you talked about the young guys going back to Parker. Obviously, his last name's one we're pretty used to around here. How much do you talk to him about writing his own story and not looking too much at what Reed and what his dad did as a pro?
Yeah, it's funny you say that. I haven't said one word to him about it, in the sense that you're Parker. I don't, I don't. I'm not saying Coach Williams hasn't said it to him or others haven't said it to him, or if he struggles or scuffles at some point, you won't sit down and have that conversation. But if he were to sit down right now, I would think he'd probably say, I don't think Coach Mack has ever said anything about it. Like, just, everyone has their own journey, everyone has their own path. And we say this a lot. It's like golf, right? It's not how you drive, it's how you arrive. I love Saban's comment about when he made reference this fall, he never had a general manager or anybody from the NFL ask about a player's freshman year, which I think all coaches will be using that one, right? I always say if the freshman year is the highlight of your career, you probably didn't have a great career. So whether your ERA is 5-something or you hit one home run, I can quickly remember within 10 months those ERAs went to 2 and the home runs went to 18. And if those players listen to this press conference, they probably should know who they are. So it's just let him enjoy the process and grow at his pace. But it's exciting when you talk about some of those young, talented position players and pitchers, man. I feel really good about this young group, and I think they can help us.
Similarities between him and Reed so far at all?
I don't. I would say this, probably the work ethic and the competitiveness. I think they're very different in maybe their characteristics or kind of their day-to-day. But I think they work extremely hard, and they seem, just having Coach Reed and watch Parker in a short stint, very competitive. And so I give their mom and dad and brothers, right? There's a lot of credit.
Just with the number of guys that you had come back, also dipped into the portal, the freshman class, can you talk just a little bit about what it was like to juggle the roster management throughout the summer and the fall, and kind of as you try to get down to the number you need to be with, like kind of what that was like, and maybe if that was a little more difficult just with so many returners and things like that?
I think it's a challenge for college baseball, in general. Roster management, I just don't know if another sport deals with what we deal with, right? Just the season ends, hopefully, like June, and you got a draft in a month, and every junior in your program wants to get drafted, and every high school signee or junior college signee, they want to get drafted. It doesn't make them bad. They want to get drafted as high as they can. So you're just trying to, juggle who's returning on your own team, who's showing up of all the signees you had. 2 years ago, when we got back from the Texas A&M Super Regional, we knew we were going to lose a lot of guys. I think we lost 7 to the draft, underclassmen, and 1 that had eligibility, graduated and retired. So we lost 8 players that could have Said, hey, Coach, I want to come back for another year. And then we had 3 signees sign. That's 11 players that, if this club don't draft them or this thing doesn't, it's out of our control. And the families have all the control, and they can do what they want as long as, we open the door for them to come back. But then this past year, when you deal with the injuries and some guys had down years, we lose 4. We don't lose 8. We lose 4. And we don't lose 3 high school signings. We lose 0. So that's stressful for me. I'm excited because I love having older players, and I want every high school kid to show up for all the right reasons. But roster management becomes stressful because now it's like, okay, how do I keep everybody happy? So you just do your best and communicate and be honest and tell kids where they are and where they are in the depth chart. But, like we have a roster limit that we have to get to before Friday. We're the only sport in college baseball with a roster limit. And nobody can really give me a good reason why. They got too many players. Says who? If the kids want to be here, they want to be here. But somehow we've come up with this rule where we have to cut a kid who's been here all fall, summer, all fall, mapped out, hey, you might not make the roster. He didn't want to go to a junior college. He didn't want to transfer. He wants to be here. This might be his dream school. I want to see it to the end. And then you have to call him in your office and cut him. That one's never stayed well with me. And I voiced my opinion to everybody in college baseball. Everybody who has a voice or an ear. I think it's beyond ridiculous that we even have to deal with, I don't know how many sports are there in Division I athletics? Probably 30-something, maybe 40. One sport has a roster limit. When these kids pay their own way, that's the thing where I'm like, people, like, what admissions director doesn't want more students on campus? What school right now, in today's day and age, doesn't want more people paying for tuition, paying for a dorm, paying for meal cards, buying a parking pass, paying for books? Like, so it is, for me, it's stressful no matter what happens, whether the draft hits us hard like it usually does or in a certain year it doesn't. You just do your best and communicate with kids and hopefully it works out for everybody, Anything else? Thanks, everyone.